You see, Jesus is the subject, and that's why we need to decide if we will be people of unity. People who embrace everyone from a Methodist to a Pentecostal, and even to those who profess faith in Jesus but don't affiliate with any congregation. We need to choose to be people who see the common ground we share instead of the doctrinal differences. You see, Jesus is the subject. And that's why we need to be people who refuse to allow sexism to dictate calling, and we need to continue to say yes to women whom God has called and placed them in positions of leadership so that they too might have a prophetic voice in our day. Jesus is the subject. That's why we strive to be people of racial reconciliation and embrace all people regardless of skin color, race, ethnicity, or nationality. People who refuse to let prejudice have the last word. Jesus is the subject. And as we put down deep roots into this community, and as we seek to share the love of Jesus with people, we must be bold, and we must reclaim our passion for both unity and holiness. It is not optional. It is an obligation for us as kingdom people. That was true in 1881, when men and women of passion and purpose set out to keep Christ at the center of all they did, and it must be true for us today. The beliefs that were so radical in the early days of the Church of God are just as radical for us in our 21st century world. Jesus is the subject. And Jesus is the subject when we sacrifice our time and our energy and our money to help the impoverished in our community. Jesus is the subject when we invest ourselves in the life of a child whose single mom is doing everything she can to make ends meet. Jesus is the subject when our hearts are so broken over the massacre in Charleston, South Carolina, that we reach out in unprecedented ways to our Black brothers and sisters in the name of unity. Jesus is the subject when we refuse to allow the evil of human trafficking to continue under our watch. Jesus is the subject when we work to end violence on our city streets. Jesus is the subject when we live believing that the cross and Christ are at the center of our salvation, not a particular stance on sexual ethics. Jesus is the subject when our speech is seasoned with mercy and grace. Jesus is the subject when we pray for our city council members, and then we put feet to our prayers and we ask them how we can help them to do their job. Jesus is the subject when we no longer allow Sunday morning worship to be the most segregated hour in America. Jesus is the subject when we defend the orphan and we plead the widow's cause. Jesus is the subject when we allow ourselves to consider the resume of a woman or a Black man as our next senior pastor. You see, Jesus is the subject when kingdom dwellers have a passionate relationship with Christ and a sacrificial love for people. Now that's radical. That is revolutionary. Jesus is the subject.